This is Jeremy, and we're training on Lone Wolf. This is our back office product, and where we have training, we connect with other people, we promote our listings and open houses. Yet the most important part of this is the Transact tab at the top. It's right there in the middle, and if you click on that, we're going to talk a little bit about this. So when you open it, you're going to see your active transactions and your filed transactions. Transact is where you're going to come in and upload all your documents for compliance. If you don't load your documents to compliance, you don't get paid. We don't know about your transaction unless you upload your documents. And so it's really important. And here's a best practice. If you're working with a buyer client, even if you don't have a contract with them, go ahead and start a transaction and upload the IABS and the buyer's rep. If you're working with a listing, don't wait until you have a contract on the property or until it closes. Once you get that listing agreement, go ahead and load up all the documents related to that listing so that I can see it, the office can see it, our director, Robbie, can see it, and we know what's going on in your business so that we know also how we can help you best. So, how do you get a transaction in? You're going to go over to Actions, Add a Transaction. Super simple. There's four different categories that you can upload. So upload to, and that's residential, apartment. So this would be like a property manager paying you a fee, or an apartment paying you a fee. Commercial, and then a referral only. So you're getting paid a referral. You'd upload your referral form in there and create your CDA. We're going to do residential. And this process is just going to walk you through and ask you questions, and it's going to tell you exactly what you need as well. So first of all, I get asked what type of transaction is it that, and it's residential. Is it a sell, which would be you representing the buyer, or a sell listing, you representing the listing, or is it a lease, which you represent the tenant, or a lease listing, which you represent the landlord? So in this case, we're going to do sell or sell listing. And what I recommend, and you don't have to go through all of these, but I would recommend that you use this to help you keep track of where you are at in the transaction. And it just makes things a lot easier. So we're going to click on start, even if you're in the early stages. Again, maybe it's you've just started working with the buyer or you've taken that listing. So I'm going to click on start. And now it's going to ask you, well, what party do you represent? Do you represent the seller or do you represent the buyer? So we're going to choose seller in this case. And it's going to ask you who is the seller. So they're either going to be in the system, probably they're not. So you're going to have to add them. So we're going to select a client. And we're going to say test to Williams, test to Williams at email.com. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. If they don't have an email address, you can check no email address available. It's really important that this information's in here in the event. John, as our broker owner, gets a call and maybe there's something that's going on in the transaction and he's needing to deal with it, or myself. We've got to know how to be able to contact these individuals, especially if you're like on vacation, or God forbid, you're in the hospital and you can't deal with the client at that time. Whatever the case may be, we may need to at some point know so that we can handle whatever's happening with the transaction. So we're going to add the new contact, and you're going to see the person here. And then once we have the contact in there, we're going to create, and it may be it's a husband and wife, so you're going to have two here for the seller. We're going to create the transaction. All right, if you look across the top, it's going to give you a summary. So that's where we're at now. So it goes timeline, start, showing, contract, pre-closing, post-closing. So all the steps, it just kind of walks you through what you need. So we can look at the people that are involved. So if we have a seller's agent coordinator, like a licensed assistant, we can put that in here, or it could be a transaction coordinator as well, or you could add a different coordinator. But all the people that might be involved in the transaction, your title agent, the buyer eventually, you can add that information in, or any type of vendor. Maybe you have a photographer or somebody that's coming out and doing staging. You can add those vendors in there. But everybody that's attached to the transaction, you can add them to BackAgent here or Lone Wolf. Once you do that, you're going to go to your details. When did your listing agreement take into effect? So you can edit, you can actually add those dates in. When does it expire? What is the ownership status of the property? Was it built before 1978? And if it was, what do you need? You need the lead-based paint addendum. And more importantly, you better make sure they get the pamphlet. That's a $10,000 fine. It's a federal fine. Is it a homeowners association? Is the property in a water district or mud? Is the property in a flood hazard area? Listing information, contacts, all of these things you can fill out. And what this does is help you stay organized, and being organized is going to make your job a lot easier down the road. All right. So you can set the property. That's important. Put the address in. And so that will change this test to Williams since it's a listing. Once you set the property, it'll change it to the address of the property. Documents. All right, so I have in the Google Drive the list of all the required documents for buyers, sellers, leases for landlords, and for tenants. That's all inside the Google Drive in the working with sellers folder, working with buyers folder, and working with leases folder. And by the way, if you need a W-9 for working with leases, because sometimes you're going to need that for the other brokerage, that can be found in working with leases. So it's real simple. It's telling you what is required. And what you can do is you can attach the document, you can upload the document into the system. So we've got information about brokerage services, the listing agreement, seller's disclosure notice. We do require a CMA when you're working with listings. So we want you to present that to them. And I, as a best practice, would have them sign it so that they know they're agreeing to the price. So make sure you have that CMA in there. You should be running it when you're taking the listing anyways. You're advising them on price. Tax print record printout, it's recommended. I would personally print that out and also have them sign it. You also want to have the tax record as well to make sure that the tax record matches the names on the listing agreement. It's recommended. I would put it in there. I would have them at least initial it. And then required later. So the residential contracts, once it goes under contract, your seller's disclosure notice signed by all parties, your pre-qual letter, not required but recommended. You should be getting that. So I would load it in there. Wire fraud notice, it is required. Appraisals recommended. Home inspection report, definitely going to want to load it up. Receipt for repairs, if that's necessary, they're negotiated. Make sure those are in there. Tax cert, title commitment is recommended. The buyer walkthrough and acceptance is required. And so is your closing disclosure HUD-1 statement. So this is where you make your CDA, and I'll show you that in just a second. So on the buyers, let's say there's a situation where you're representing the listing, the buyer's agent, you've requested a buyer walkthrough form signed. Maybe they didn't do the buyer walkthrough, or they're just not getting you the form, and you've requested it multiple times. So what you could do there is either print out the emails, which I would recommend, showing that you'd had a conversation with them, and load it in here, or you can come over here and create a document, and let's just call it buyer walkthrough. Put buyer requested or requested from buyer the walkthrough on the following dates. I'd list out my dates, and then I'd put they have yet to provide it. Or maybe they told me they did not do it. Whatever the case may be, give the reason. You're going to print this down into a PDF and then you're going to load it into here. Whenever it says required later, it's going to require a document in here or it will not pass compliance. So make sure you either have the email showing the communication where you are trying to attempt to get the walkthrough and they have yet to provide it, or upload a form in there that explains what has happened in that situation so that if anything ever happens, John's able to go back and be able to provide the evidence saying, hey, we requested that walkthrough for multiple times. The buyer never got it to us, and our agent has indicated it in their compliance. All right, the closing disclosure. This is how everybody gets paid. So I can't do that yet because I haven't uploaded the forms. But you'll walk through it and you'll put in all the amounts that are to be paid out. So on some deals, it may require that you pay if you're paying in on a cap and you've come underneath me, then there will be a line item there for JPW Business Consulting LLC. That's how I get paid, and then how JLA gets paid is there's a line there for JLA. So the cap on the people that I've brought to the company, half of that goes to John and half of that goes to me. Now we have a director involved. If anybody is in Robbie's downline per se, then what happens is half will go to JLA. So, and then 25% will go to Robbie and 25% will go to myself. All right. And I believe Robbie is RTA Investments. All right. So once you get your CDA completely filled out, make sure you donate to JLA Can. JLA Can has a line item on there. I think it's set at $5. So for every closing, that $5 goes to JLA Can, and that's there to help our agents and be able to provide for them in times of need. I've had agents that have received from that. And so, make a small donation there. It all adds up over time. And there's a committee that it looks over that money and makes the determination on how that money is used to best help our agents in need, or sometimes even community needs that are out there. So when you load all this up, it's really, really important that you have all the documents that are required. Once you have them all, this button's going to light up. And this is where most people will make the mistake. They will not hit the submit button. They'll have everything in here, everything's ready to go. And they'll ask, why are they not getting paid? Or where's my check? Or where's my CDA? And 99.9% of the time, they've done all this correct, but they forgot to go in there and hit the submit button. Only then will it make it to Cindy, so Cindy can review it and initiate that CDA for you. My recommendation is to have this submitted at least 3 days in advance of closing to give it time for the CDA to go out. It'll go out to the title company or the people that you've designated in there is going to go to, so that you can get paid at the table. If it's one of those deals where it's last minute, they will make exceptions. They will remind you, please, to have it in advance. But we understand that sometimes things change and last minute things need to be altered. And as long as you make the changes in here and get that information to Cindy, then she knows. And that might be, if you're having something like that happen, don't be dependent on just submitting it. Go ahead and pick up the phone, call Cindy, and let her know what's going on. And that's it. So again, best practices, even if you're starting with the client or you just took the listing, get your basic paperwork in and load it to the system. And then as you're going along in the process, you can just add the additional forms. And what makes that nice is you're not under pressure or in a rush, so that when you get near the closing table, your CDA is already done, it's correct, and you are getting paid, which is most important. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any questions in regards to CDAs, you can always reach out to Cindy for clarification.